This man never expected that by casually using insecticide to defeat a golden slime, he would set the gears of fate in motion. Kaido started coming to the first level of the underground labyrinth every day with his insecticide, simply because his own strength was too weak to defeat the goblins on the second level. Thus, Kaido became a professional slime slayer, showing no mercy to the slimes. Moreover, every time he killed a slime, he could obtain a crystal. Just by selling these, he could earn a decent income. But what Kaido never expected was that, as an ordinary adventurer, he would also have his day of becoming incredibly lucky. The golden slime he had just killed dropped a high-quality card with the words Valkyrie on it. Summoning her would grant Kaido a god-level servant, but once summoned, the card would lose its value. This made Kaido hesitate. After coming out of the labyrinth, he sold the slime crystals and learned from the buyer that a servant card of the same level as an angel could fetch 1 billion yen. This left Kaido somewhat dumbfounded, unable to fully grasp the situation. He had never imagined that the card he had picked up could suddenly make him wealthy and elevate his life to its peak. Kaido looked at the card, lost in thought. So much so that on his way home, he kept thinking about the card. When Kaido got home, he heard on the TV broadcast that underground labyrinths had appeared all over the world since 13 years ago. From the initial panic to now, where everyone could venture into the labyrinths, Kaido was one such enthusiast. He had previously gone to the second level with a classmate, but the goblins were too strong, and Kaido nearly got hammered. Therefore, he could only stay on the first level and farm slimes. But now, this card he had found could change his life. Selling the card would get him 1 billion in cash, but summoning the servant would give him a powerful ally. Kaido was torn, after all. It was 1 billion yen. The next day, as Kaido was leaving for school, he encountered a girl, and they went to school together. Because the girl was quite attractive, she immediately drew a lot of attention. Seeing this, Kaido slowed down his pace to put some distance between them. But the girl seemed unhappy and slowed down to walk alongside Kaido. Just then, 2 of Kaido's close friends appeared. Kaido told them not to mention the labyrinth to the girl, and to find a reason to brush it off. However, the 3 of them lacked coordination. One said they were going to the game center, another said to sing, and another said to go bowling. The girl pouted, looking at Kaido, and without guessing, she knew Kaido had been to the labyrinth again. But after Kaido's repeated explanations, the girl reluctantly believed his fib. Soon, the group arrived at school. Kaido started discussing the rare card with Kei. Since summoning the servant would make it impossible to sell the card, Kaido was torn between choosing 1 billion yen or a powerful servant. It wasn't until he glanced at the girl's back that Kaido quietly made up his mind. He headed straight to the underground labyrinth, avoiding the surveillance cameras overhead, and went to a corner to begin summoning from the card. Suddenly, a gigantic woman appeared before Kaido's eyes, only to vanish the next second. Then a voice sounded, and a young girl in armor appeared before him. Kaido was incredulous. The girl respectfully introduced herself as Sylphie. At that moment, Kaido was at a loss for words. He had expected a statuesque Valkyrie, but instead, a child version had arrived. Fortunately, Sylphie was very sensible and possessed excellent scouting abilities. She could sense the slimes around them. Sylphie led Kaido to a corner and then took on the nearby slimes as instructed. Despite being a young Valkyrie, her strength was not to be underestimated. With a burst of intense light, Kaido discovered she had a combat power of 170, 17 times his own. At that moment, Sylphie became a bit sheepish because she was hungry and wanted to eat the crystal from the slime they had just defeated. Kaido let her eat it, although he felt it was somewhat uneconomical. Once Sylphie acted, she needed to replenish her energy, which meant there would be no income if they fought all day. Kaido then had Sylphie look for slimes, while he used insecticide to kill them, ensuring they didn't lose out. Together, they caused ultimate trouble for the slimes on the first level. Soon after, Kaido left the labyrinth with today's earnings being 15,000 yen, more than 10 times his usual amount. With Sylphie, the Valkyrie by his side, Kaido had nothing to worry about. Previously too weak to defeat the goblins, now with Sylphie's help, he could finally challenge the second level of the labyrinth. Later, Sylphie could never have imagined that her master was such a strong man. With only his gear, he could exchange blows with the goblins. Although she could kill a goblin with just one skill, Kaido enjoyed the fight. Previously, He had been beaten by goblins and was still quite fearful of them. To regain his reputation, Kaito directly challenged a goblin to a one-on-one duel. Of course, if he couldn't handle it, he would need Sylphie's help, which left the goblin speechless. In the ensuing battle, the goblin was accidentally killed by Kaito, becoming a ghost under his stick. Kaito burst into tears upon seeing this, finally avenging the past beating. Sylphie watched, bewildered, as the subsequent battles were all handled by her. Kaito's efficiency was too slow. Sylphie only needed to activate her built-in skills to defeat the goblins. This time, Kaito's haul included 4 goblin crystals, which surprised the buyer. She hadn't expected someone who usually hunted slime to venture to the second level of the labyrinth and even defeat goblins. In the following days, Kaito fed Sylphie while farming goblins. His level soared dramatically, reaching level 10. Even his wooden stick was upgraded to an iron rod, and he received a divine blessing. With this blessing, Kaito's attributes increased significantly, and each level up significantly boosted his stats. Seeing this passive ability, Kaito kneeled before Sylphie without a second thought. If this was the work of a god, only the young Valkyrie by his side could have made it happen. Sylphie was a bit dumbfounded, and before she could speak, Kaito grabbed her little hand. Although she was a young Valkyrie, the blessings she bestowed were genuinely powerful. Sylphie also sighed, feeling fortunate to have such a master. The two then resumed fighting. Suddenly, a skeleton emitting a white light appeared before them, a rare monster. With Sylphie's help, Kaito successfully defeated the skeleton, though his role was merely supportive. The young Valkyrie handled all the offense. Sylphie was a bit hungry by then, so she ate the red crystal they obtained, which tasted quite good. After leaving the labyrinth, Kaito learned from the buyer that both the red crystal and the white light skeleton were rare items, worth 2 million yen each. Kaito's eyes dimmed. 2 million yen gone just like that, eaten up with no way to recover it. He could only feel the pinch of losing 2 million yen as he lay in bed back home, thinking about the 3rd level of the labyrinth. Since this level harbored multiple monsters, Kaito worried about being a drag on Sylphie, so he decided to fight alone in the upcoming battles. This made Sylphie anxious. She thought Kaito didn't want her anymore. Kaito quickly explained, easing her worries. Sylphie expressed that she would never see her master as a burden, but rather thought highly of him. With an unmatched appetite, Kaito faced a brutal beating from the goblins. The buyer, seeing Kaito's battered state, couldn't help but advise him to be careful. Kaito could only offer an awkward smile. After getting beaten up, Kaito began spending heavily on potions and gear to stand a chance against the goblins. Thus, Kaito returned to the 1st level of the labyrinth, where he found slimes easier to deal with. Using Insecticide, he massacred the slimes until Sylphie sensed a rare one, a silver slime. Kaito made a move to kill it, and in the next second, Sylphie used her skill to finish it off, obtaining another servant card that listed a Viscount-level demon. Kaito was elated and immediately summoned it. Now having both a Valkyrie and a demon, he was on the verge of reaching the pinnacle of his life. However, the summoned character turned out to be yet another little girl. The boy never expected that the succubus familiar he spent 10 billion to purchase would turn out to be a little lowly demon when summoned. He had hoped for a sweet duo with a big sister type, but his dream was completely shattered. To his dismay, the demon Luceria was a tsundere with a sharp tongue, criticizing Kaito for being dumb and unreliable right from their first meeting. Even the little lowly couldn't stand watching this. After all, Kaito was her new master. But Luceria told them not to mind her words, as this was just the nature of demons, and she meant no harm. Hearing this, the little lowly lowered her guard. Later, to test Luceria's strength, Kaito summoned a slime. Unexpectedly, Luceria's fire cannon caused a huge explosion, proving her combat value of 130. However, Luceria turned out to be a glutton. After the little lowly unleashed a powerful move, a single magic core should have sufficed, but after eating one, she continued to ask Kaito for more. Not only did Kaito not make any money, but he also had to keep spending more. Thinking about this made Kaito feel a tremendous loss, and Luceria even mocked him for being a stingy master. Eventually, Kaito decided to take Luceria to the 2nd level and let her use another skill, Corrosive Breath, partly to see the effect of the skill, and partly because goblins were worth much more than slimes, minimizing his losses. The skill was terrifying, and even just watching it felt chilling. The loot was easily secured, and now with protectors by his side, Kaido finally dared to enter the third level of the dungeon, where most monsters appeared in pairs. He even bought a new weapon. Upon encountering a monster, he intended to take one down first, but his shot went awry. The monster charged at him, but, fortunately, in a critical moment, the little lowly deployed a barrier, followed by Luceria's cooperative attack, securing their loot. Luceria always complained that what was given to her was not enough, and if she continued to eat like this, all the day's efforts would be wasted. She even harshly threatened to send Kaito to hell, which worried Sylphie the onlooker. Although the battles had become much easier, Kaito's income hadn't increased much. After each battle, he had to feed both the little lowly and Luceria, and as the little lowly's level increased, so did her appetite. Thus, to avoid wasting effort, Kaito had no choice but to return to the first level to farm slimes. This move baffled the receptionist. Given the loot Kaito had previously brought back, he should have had enough strength to advance to the fourth level, but instead he returned to the weakest level. Kaito, of course, didn't dare mention his reliance on leg pulling, and instead claimed it was a return to basics. However, to go to the fourth level, his current equipment was still lacking. His only choice was to farm more slimes. The next day, he found a special slime. To ensure nothing went wrong, he had his protectors take action. They quickly surrounded the slime, taking turns attacking it. Although this time it didn't drop the servant card Kaito had hoped for, he did obtain a magic orb. Dreaming of becoming a magician, Kaito decisively used the orb and immediately learned a water-based magic spell. He couldn't wait to test its power, but the result was disappointing. The water ball had no effect on the monsters. In the end, Luceria had to take action. Kaito was puzzled, but Sylphie comforted him thoughtfully. Luceria also reminded him that at least he now always had water to drink. Hearing this, Kaito regretted not selling the orb earlier.